Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers and their coaches. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I can see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can be incredibly lonely. You can feel more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. Clients who are more successful, more intelligent, and wealthier than you need your support more than they know and more than you can imagine. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, and the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. In this season of my podcast, I'm going to share with you some of the interviews that I've done with some of the most fascinating people I know on their podcasts. And I'm also going to share with you some of the most popular episodes of this podcast again. And I have an invitation for you. You see, most people listen for agreement. I like this, I don't like that. I invite you to listen to these episodes for insight, not agreement. You see, then you can listen to an episode you've heard before. And instead of dismissing it of, I know this one, I've heard this one, you can listen for a distinction that you didn't hear the first time around. You can listen for an insight that you could have missed the first time you listened to it. Enjoy. I'm looking for a new car right now, and I drove a Porsche Panamera the other day, and I noticed the dials are very different to the dials on my car right now. And then I took a Tesla out, and the dials are different again. We tend not to pay attention to the dials in our life, but we pay attention to the dials in our vehicle. We know when to look at the check engine light comes on, and we realize, oh, I need to call someone up to get a service. The brake lights come on, the oil light comes on, the tire pressure gauge comes on. I got a speeding ticket the other day because I wasn't paying attention. I went too fast. We know to pay attention to those dials in our car, but we don't pay attention to the dials in our life. Today, you're going to hear me working with a woman who's a consultant and a coach who realizes she's up leveling and feels this tension between who she wants to be and who she is. And what I tell her is that you need to up level your gauges, your dials, so you can see who you are. I help her create some new metrics for success. And I hope as you listen in, you can work out, okay, are those good ones for me? Or what would my next metric for success be? Enjoy. Hi, Nikki.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, I have a question for you. What's one question you could ask me, the answer to which could change everything? Well, that stopped you in your tracks, didn't it?
It's a big question.
Mm-hmm. What's one question, the answer to which could change everything? And you can pick an area of your life, it can be your business, your life.
Well, this is the one that's most present to me right now. How do I learn how to manage the tension between my perception of where I think I am or who I think I am and the vision of who I'm becoming? And there's a tension in there. Sometimes I feel it so very strongly of I know the kind of person I want to be. A lot of those things I have embodied. I do know that. There are some things that and these probably are connected to my business life, where I envision that person and I'm just in the tension area of trying to figure out how to manage that until I have a sense that I'm I'm in that space. So,
Well, let's find out. Tell me, this person you want to be, tell me about her.
yeah. This person has developed the muscle of trusting herself, trusting her decisions, and being a person who makes decisions, um, knowing that she can handle whatever is on the other side of it. Um, this person, every day, maybe that's too much to ask, but every day steps fully into the reality that the work that she does and the person she is a catalyst for change in this world for good. Um, and steps into that moment every day. Um,
And let's just check in.
yeah.
Every day? I mean, you want to have any days in the future where you can lie on a beach and drink cocktails and not have to be a catalyst for change?
Oh, that sounds amazing. No, I want those days. But even then, Rich, like, even if I'm sitting on the beach, I want to know that I'm full of who I am
Yeah.
and have a sense of it, you know?
Well, how will you know? If I get in my car, I look at some gauges that tell me if I've got enough gas to get to where I'm going, if the tire pressure needs to be changed, if the oil needs to be changed. I have some warning lights and I have some gauges I look at.
Mhm.
How will you know? Because I think you're right. The problem is, as you keep growing, you keep rising up, but our mindsets can sometimes stay back there where we were many years, many decades earlier. I still wake up sometimes and I think, when will I feel like a grown up? When will that happen? When will I actually feel like a grown up? I've got, and my oldest is 10 years old right now. And I remember, my kids are getting to an age where I remember being their age. When they were younger, I didn't remember that age, but now I remember being that age, the thoughts and the fears and doubts. And some of that is still present in me.
Mm.
How will you know?
I'm not sure I've defined that. And at times, I wonder if I'm the one adding to the tension that I talked about earlier. So for just me as a person, I know that, I want to be, and I am a kind person, right? A generous person, a peaceful person, a loving person. And I can see that uh, in who I am. I can see that in my interactions with people and my intentions. I can see that. Some of these, some of these other things that I've mentioned, I'm not sure I've defined that. Um, and I can
I
go
think
back and forth.
that's
Yeah.
we're looking in the right direction then, right? If you haven't defined them, then how will you know? You'll never know. You'll always have a sense of I'm not there yet. Like the kids in the back of the car. Am I there yet, mummy? Am I there yet, mummy? You'll never get there. The trouble with the horizon is you never get to it. So let's define this. How would you know if you trusted yourself and trusted your decisions? What would tell you? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel that would tell you,
Mm.
trust myself and I trust my decisions?
To trust myself that I would move and take action on the stirrings that I feel inside of me, and be practicing talking myself into it instead of talking myself out of things. Um, if I could mark that practice and be able to see that I'm doing that more times than not, I think that could be an indicator.
Great.
Um,
Let's pause there.
yeah,
Let's just take one at a time.
yeah.
So, if for the next 90 days, before you went to bed, you
Mm.
checked in and said, what stirrings did I have inside of me today?
Mm.
And where did I act on them? If you did that every day for 90 days, your world would transform. At the beginning, you probably wouldn't know. I didn't have any stirrings today. But as you begin to pay attention, you'd realize, oh, I had this kind of flickering sensation here. There was this feeling in my body here. Oh, there are some stirrings. And as time goes on, do this for 90 days. Oh, today I felt a stirring inside of me, and I put an item on my to-do list because of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is doable and makes sense. And then I can get rid of this old story. That's not who I am anymore. That's not who I am. Because I have evidence.
That's right.
Right.
So we're creating the metrics for your success into the future.
Yes.
So let me ask you this next question. How will you know if you're a person who makes decisions and knows she can handle whatever's on the other side?
This answer is twofold, I think. One being actually a question you asked me on a call that we had once, because I think I brought up that I had a fear of not knowing enough and making a decision that where I couldn't recover from it. That was a really long story. And I think I remember, I mean, I'll mess up your wording, but basically you said, so when are the times that you haven't been able to recover? I have an answer for that, because here I am right here. So first, being able to take the time to look back and really consider decisions that I've made, or even from small to big, whatever, even if there were decisions that I didn't like the outcome, to see that I was creative enough and present enough to figure it out. And then I didn't die. So that's one thing for sure.
Well, let me give you a tool that might help you with that. Get yourself a beautiful journal that you love writing in and calling it your decision book. And what you do is twofold. One, start to review the past. What decisions did I make in my life? Like, go back to the beginning. Which college did I go to? Who should I date? And go back through all the decisions in your life and review them. And then start making a book that also runs from the present moment. And each time you make a decision, put it in the decision book, knowing that now you'll be able to go back to it later. I'm going to take on this new client. I'm going to take on a new gig for a different company. Put them in the decision book and track them and see, oh yeah, that was a dream client. Oh my God, that was a nightmare client. What did I miss? So a decision book, I think, will be a really valuable tool for you. I know you're writing.
Yeah. That brings me a lot of joy.
Mm-hmm.
It brings back a memory for me. So I've been full-time coaching for 3 years, but coaching all my life. But when I worked my job, I remember when I knew it was time for me to go after 20 years of doing what I was doing. And I was nervous and I was afraid, and I'd never worked for myself and had nobody in my family had ever worked for themselves, none of that. And there was a point where I had realized, when I just kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong, and all the things that were cluttering my mind. And at some point I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to figure out what is it that I'm afraid of. And so I did this thing in my journal where on one side of the paper I wrote, what am I afraid of? And tried to name as much as possible. And on the other side, I did, what is actually true? And I use this with my clients now too in the work, but that was such a turning point for me because, I'm a head-centered person for the most part, but I could look at it on paper and say, this is what is. This is actually what is. And not that all my fear went away, but I certainly started to find my courage a bit more to make the change.
But let's catch something. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and doing what you want to do, or what you need to do, even though you feel afraid.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're trying to get rid of fear for you. It's that you step a little bit more into courage each day.
Yeah. Yeah, and the truth and the honesty of what was actually true
Mm-hmm.
Really started to stoke courage.
Most of us are like little kids who draw a monster on a piece of paper and then look at the piece of paper and go, there's a monster. and that's what we do. Look, I did the mathematics yesterday. In fact, I'm writing for an article about this. We have about 10,000 ancestors if you go back to the earliest humans. For every one of those 10,000 ancestors, maybe not some of our parents, maybe some of us were fortunate to have grandparents who didn't have to feel this way, but most of those 10,000 generations of our ancestors were afraid. They lived in poverty. They had no resources. They lived in scarcity. They were afraid of their life. If they got a scratch, they might die. So we have 10,000 generations before us who are deeply fearful people. No wonder we've embodied it. There are people on this planet to this day who are afraid of their life on a regular basis. So it makes sense that we go to that clench moment of fear. And one of the ways you can deal with that, like you say, is to write down on a piece of paper, what am I afraid of? And how true is this?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't always have a sense of the connection to the people that have gone before me. Some of that's part of my own story, but even just as you say it, it just makes so much sense. We all have things that are passed down to us, right? And that being passed down, to not look at it as, either I shouldn't feel that way, whatever that way is, or shouldn't do whatever, but like it just is. It's part of our existence, right? As humans.
So that's a great exercise too. Here's another tool, the shoulds. What are my shoulds? Do a writing exercise. What are my shoulds? Well, my mother had done this by the time she was my age. My grandmother told me, you should do this. In my cultural background, you should do this or you should not do that. In my religion, you shouldn't do this, you should do this. Where I live in my community, in my country. There are so many shoulds at different levels that we don't stop to look at. And so most of us are living other people's lives.
Yeah.
I've got one last question for you.
Yeah.
If you want to wake up every day asking, knowing if you're a catalyst for change, ask yourself that question every evening. Where was I a catalyst for change today?
Mm-hmm. Man,
and so look, you were saying to me earlier when I was coughing, Rich, take your time, don't worry about it. Well, the same goes for you, Nikki. Take your time, don't worry about it. You don't have to be a catalyst for change every day. You can sit on the beach drinking cocktails and not have to go, well, is it okay because I was a catalyst for change? You know what? I just want a cocktail today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for that.
Thanks for playing with me, Nikki.
Thanks for the opportunity, Rich.
Yeah. You've begun to map out your metrics for success. Mm-hmm. And the next time we talk about this, come back to me and let's review them. Give me a check-in. 90 days at least, but come back and say, hey, I've been keeping an eye on them. Just the way you do in your car, you keep an eye. Does that check engine light go on? Does the oil light go on? Does the tire pressure gauge go low? You keep an eye on these things. I got a ticket for speeding the other day sitting on my desk because I wasn't paying attention and I drive too fast. We don't pay attention to our dials, stuff happens. You got some new dials, you just upgraded. You got yourself a new vehicle, pay attention to the dials and see what happens.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, Rich.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.